Marjot running around hauling stuff, trying to be productive despite her injuries. I woke up about 6 a.m. We still had a ton of work to do. Turns out that ship part that had fallen nearby been spreading a ton of weird fungus about. Could only lead to something bad. Marjot went and took a spot where she could shoot safely inside. I shot the ship, and of course a bunch of them aliens popped out of it. The little ones took off south. Who knows what they were going for, but we'd have to deal with them later. All the bigger ones came after me, running through the trap corridor. And our guns took them down for the most part. We ended up having to scatter. One of them got into us, but our guns dropped it before too long. I took some damage. Got its claws into me a few times. Nothing major though. Just some cracks in the bionics. And then we ran on outside. We couldn't figure out where them little ones had gone. Found some dead ones down south by the Muffalo. We had bigger problems at the moment anyway. We had to destroy that ship, stop that fungus from spreading. It was foggy and rainy. So we went out and shot the ship up. And all kinds of stuff came out of it. Some cryptosleep caskets, components, advanced components, plasteel, steel. Marjot hauled in what she could. I was hungry. I had to get back and get myself tended. So I used the table. I tossed horseshoes a bit. Being that I felt so stressed, thought I should do something fun. And then I was off the bed. Marjot came in, prayed a bit, and got me tended. She took care of me just fine. And I rested. Marjot decided to throw some horseshoes as well. I've been having a hell of a day. Some ambrosia sprouted nearby. We had a ton of alien bodies that needed to be hauled about. Such a mess. We had traps to build. Needed to get some proper kind of security around this place. I grabbed the Molotov cocktails. Picked up my gun so it wouldn't get rained on. Ran on out to see if I could deal with all the fungus that had sprouted everywhere. I also tossed some Molotovs into the body pile where we built the roof. So I started burning the fungus. The stuff was insidious and it was sneaky. Hide behind different plants. Couldn't even see it really till you were on top of it. So I used those Molotovs. Got a huge blaze going. It's gonna have to start a big one in order to stop the rain from putting it out. There's gonna be a lot of trees suffering for it. There's a grizzly nearby looking pretty hungry. I went about my business for the time being. There was so much of that fungus about. Eventually that grizzly started coming at me. It wasn't really too bright of a move for it, considering I was standing there holding Molotov cocktails. So I chucked one at it. And that made it change its mind real quick. Sadly not for too long though. I tried to stay focused on the task at hand, despite the rain, the darkness, and the bear that was trying to kill me. Spent the better part of the evening trying to weed out all this fungus, get it all burnt up. All the while fighting against that rain. Stuff was scattered everywhere. But eventually I had a pretty good feeling I'd gotten most of it. So I ran on inside. Chucked a few more at the bodies. Be nice to not be smelling those things all the time. Once the initial disgustingness of having burned them all wore off. So I re-equipped my assault rifle. Put the Molotovs back on the shelf where they wouldn't get wrecked by the rain. And then it was time to have myself a meal. So we hauled stuff around. Tried to tidy up. Marjot was out picking up steel. We didn't have any on hand, so we had to go out, use some from the floors. We found some more of that fungus lurking about, and all of a sudden it started getting real cold. Marjot went and grabbed the Molotovs. She started working on getting rid of the rest of the fungus. One of those fast runner aliens came out of nowhere, started attacking her. I grabbed my gun and came running as fast as I could. She was already pretty well injured. Wasn't a lot she could do from where she was, so she started beating the thing as best she could with the bottle she was holding in her hand. Didn't do much damage, and it caught her good, and it ended up killing her. I was in a frenzy, screaming, shooting my gun, trying to bring the damn thing down. It came at me. It was bleeding pretty good. It caught me. I ran inside and the guns brought it down. And we had that resurrection serum, so I made a beeline for it. I wasn't even going to go bring her inside. I brought the serum to her right where she was. And lo and behold, it worked. She came back to life, good as new. She said she felt pretty sick. So I grabbed her gear, picked her on up, brought her on inside, and I was off to bed myself. She was feeling pretty sick, but she was all healed up from all of her wounds. Had nothing to complain about. I had a crack in my leg, so I had to get up and get that tended myself since Marjot was incapable. After that, I decided to have some chocolate, think about the insanity that had just went down, how I nearly lost Marjot, how I couldn't bear the thought of that. She seemed happy, and she seemed fine despite being sick. A mad turkey showed up about that time. Seemed like the least of our worries given all the chaos of late. We were laying in bed, just enjoying each other's company. I got up and had myself a meal. Decided I'd better take all the beer out of the fermenting barrels before finishing it. Gotta have your priorities straight after all. I brought Marjot a meal. She liked them simple, so that's what I brought for her. And then I headed on outside. As soon as I walked on out, one of them damn aliens showed up out of nowhere. We couldn't figure out where they were coming from. Not sure if it was a result of that fungus or those little critters that had run off, but the damn thing got a hold of me pretty good. I had to run back to where the guns were, and they brought it down. I screamed, opened fire on it, eventually killed it. While I was doing that, another one showed up. These damn things just don't go away. We have to figure out what's causing this problem. There was no obvious indication on where they were coming from. I was off to bed again. Feeling some pain, but I'd got myself tended up. Marjot was still recovering. And when I got out of bed, I was going to have to haul a bunch of these aliens out. I was still carrying Marjot's gear and the Molotovs. I dropped those inside. And I started carrying the alien bodies out. There was slag laying around. I decided to bring a bunch of that in as well. We were going to need as much steel as we could get. Couldn't even rebuild our traps once again. So I ran around hauling steel, keeping an eye out everywhere for those aliens again. And then I decided to have some chocolate. Marjot had gotten her arm ripped off during that alien encounter, so we were going to have to make her another arm. She lost her power claw, but she didn't really like it as much as she liked the bionic hand anyway. So we'd get her taken care of. She was finally feeling up for some frisky business that night. You creeps need to quit watching us so much too. I was fully healed before morning. I brought Marjot a meal and decided to do some cleaning in the kitchen. It's quite the mess. After that, it was back to hauling steel. All these slag chunks would be extremely useful as soon as Marjot could get up to do something with them. I was feeling pretty inspired about that time, not that it was going to do me any good. Sadly, I didn't have a bionic arm around. Marjot had started vomiting all over the bedroom due to her illness. I was bringing steel anywhere I could find it. And there was a bunch of steel floors around, so I worked on getting those picked up. Brought in all that steel as well. I really wanted a meal, but I focused on the steel. A whole bunch of cloudberries came out of the sky about that time. Someone somewhere must have been taking pity on us. But I had my hands full. I made a note to bring them in. My helmet was pretty worn out. Marjot's was when she got up. So she had some changing of clothes to do, get herself sorted out. She re-equipped her weapon. She was running around topless for a while. We were going to have to make her some new gear. She wasn't happy with the state of the stuff she still had. She was 100% again. Minus that arm anyway. We had some fun that night. Seeing her running around with half her clothes off all day gets a guy a bit riled up. We decided we were going to make another set of marine armor as well so we could both be well equipped. Didn't make sense to take risks. At some point it would really go down around here. That stuff would come in useful. Marjot worked on melting all that slag down into usable steel. I was going to have to do some cooking before I could focus on much else. We were running short on food. So I cooked the better part of the day. And then I decided it was time to have a beer. Marjot came in and had a tea. She wasn't up for a beer yet. She wasn't sure what those mechanites were going to do to her. But they seemed to have gotten her in tip-top shape. I started making some new flat gear for her. Should be able to get her a jacket, a vest, all the essentials. She chilled out, watched some TV, thought about eating some chocolate while I worked on her gear. And once I'd finished that, I started working on the next piece. She was going to need a helmet, a vest, and a jacket before it was over, so there we went. She put the jacket on right away. She didn't want to run around naked anymore. And I focused on getting the stuff done for her before it was time to hit the hay. She got up before me since I'd been up so late. She started making more steel. Our workroom was getting to be quite the mess, so she took some time to clean that up as well. I was going to run out and grab more steel, but I decided I'd better focus on Marjot's gear. And about that time, a goat went nuts. Decided it was going to kill us. We decided to see if we could just ignore the thing. And sure enough, it tried bashing on our door, and it came in and got itself killed by our guns. We had plenty of meat laying around, but a little more wouldn't hurt. Marjot made quite a pile of steel, all that smelting, and I just focused on hauling in new chunks. I brought that goat in, didn't want it to go to waste. And Marjot was off to bed. She was feeling great once again, nothing to complain about, minus how fancy we'd made our bedroom. I hit the hay right after her. And when I got up, I decided to run out, pick up some more steel. There was a ton of it around. We were going to try and bring it all. She just stayed focused, smelting it down. And next up, I got back to making her gear. Another helmet wouldn't be a bad thing since hers had been so worn out. She felt weird about it all since she'd actually died in it. She had a beer and I had a tea. And then I had a beer as well, because why not? Some chunks of ship fell nearby. We were going to have to deconstruct that at some point. Wouldn't hurt to have more supplies about. One of our power conduits went haywire, started a fire nearby, so we had to focus on getting that put out. And our guns needed repair, as did our geothermal. Marjot's helmet was finished and she was wearing that. She came and joined me. I was sitting having a beer. She had herself a meal. I was working on her new bionics. She was smelting down the steel yet. And we were off to bed. She went before me. I hit the hay about midnight. Feeling a little bit buzzy from the beer, but not too bad. And when we got up, meals were in order, followed by putting the steel away. And then I got back to working on Marjot's bionics. I was getting close to being done. And finally I finished her new arm. We'd get her taken care of here. She was still smelting steel. I started working on the marine armor. It's going to be a ton of supplies. We were certainly going to fall short on plasteel for building the ship. But we'd have to come up with something. At least we'd get out of here alive. I went and installed her bionic arm, which was relatively easy considering she'd had a power claw installed before. And she was at peak operating efficiency once again. We were both back to the full bionic people. I got her set up with a meal. And a transport pod crashed nearby. Someone named Larissa. She hated our guts, I can tell you that. And considering that fact, we decided to let her lay. It's not like we ever did anything to her. We were hauling in steel. Marjot was building traps. There was all kinds of work that needed doing. Just trying to catch up. I was still a bit awed. I wasn't sure what I was going to do when Marjot had died. We hit the hay once again right after midnight. Marjot got up early, about 3 a.m. She was hell-bent on building some legitimate security over there. She wanted the traps up at least. And we really needed to get going on building the rest of our walls and extra guns. She was chilling out having a beer, sitting outside. I was still sleeping despite it being 7 a.m. And when I did get up, it was time for a meal. She was finishing the last of the traps while I was tossing some horseshoes. And she got the last one done. I was focusing on this marine armor. And a helmet. She went and deconstructed that ship chunk that had fallen nearby. I was working on a leg. And eventually I finished the leg. Turns out Marjot had also lost a leg. That insane battle we had had, she had had with the aliens. So I was gonna have to get that taken care of. Which I did without too much effort. And now, for real this time, we're both back to the complete bionic people. And feeling pretty awesome for it. She'd be back up to speed. Not that we could escape them fast aliens. We had some fun together in the sack that night. And then we both popped up about 6 a.m. There was all kinds of building work to do. The walls were shot to bits, covered in acidic blood. There was a fox that killed a rat nearby. We were going to try and reclaim as many blocks as we could from all the structures that were around. I laid and did some cloud watching. Marjot happily did some work. She said it felt great to be whole again. And we ran around, pulling up floors. We were going to have to do a ton of hauling to get all this stuff brought in. But for now, we had a task, and we were staying focused on it. There was no end of floors to peel up. Some of them steel, which would be extremely useful. I was still going to do a ton of mining around here too. We were always short on steel, it seemed like. We both hit the hay right after midnight. Had some fun once again. Things are going great since Marjot's recovery, re-bionicization. Decided to put up a little roof for the animals. They've been sleeping in the rain. Not that they seem to care, but seemed like the right thing to do to us. And we peeled up floors. Marjot got back to smelting steel. I decided to chill out and have myself a beer. And there were some plants that needed planting. One more round of hops and one more round of beer certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. I also replanted the corn. Might need another batch or two of that. We were going to have to get out and do some trading if we were going to have enough plasteel to build a ship. I hit the hay. Marjot got focused. Getting out, hauling in all the blocks, other slag that was laying around. She came to bed a little crabby because she was soaking wet, but not too bad. I woke up, I started planting corn. Marjot got up, decided to toss horseshoes for a while. And I chilled out and had myself a beer. I like sitting outside despite the chilly air. And then we both got to the business of hauling in all the supplies we'd left laying everywhere. We had all manner of blocks, pieces of slag. I hit the hay right before 11 that night. Feeling pretty darn good. Marjot hauled in more stuff, and then she came to bed about 1 a.m. Some travelers passed by that night, but we decided to ignore them. Unfortunately, they decided to ignore us. Had they stopped to chat, we would have told them to get the heck out of here, get themselves safe somewhere. As if all the dead alien bodies weren't enough evidence something was wrong on this planet. And there was a ton of stuff to haul yet. Blocks everywhere, so I got up, got focused on that. Decided I'd better cook some meals since we were running low on those once again. Marjot got up, got to the business of hauling, taking a break once in a while to have herself a beer. And I was trying to get the kitchen set up nice so I could cook faster. I butchered up the critters we had about. And Marjot carried supplies in. I cooked for a while, then I stopped and had a beer, just chilled out, listened to the TV but not really watching, not paying too much attention. Marjot hauled in blocks. That was pretty much our day for a while. Me cooking, her hauling. Once again, I was off to bed about 11. And once again, Marjot joined me right after. We were both feeling pretty great, in fact. And we had some good times that night, I will say. All these bionics sure do make things weird. bunch of aliens showed up then, up in the north and in the south, coming at us from all angles once again. We weren't going to be caught out again, so we ran over, get to dealing with them. The ones from the north showed up first, started flattening our traps. Even the little one was coming at us for a bit, but he decided to bypass us for easier prey like usual. So we gave chase. We were going to try and avoid any kind of weirdness, random aliens showing up and killing us. The thing went after a pig, and fortunately we got there shortly after. Started trying to get it to business with our guns. It turns out they're pretty hard to hit when they're on the ground like that. So we shot the pig up that it was attached to, and eventually it popped off and started coming at us. It got a hold of me, but I managed to whack it with my gun and bring it down. Caught me right in the leg, but it wasn't terribly bad. And I decided to haul in that pig. Marjot's pants had worn out by then, so she went and put on the new ones I'd already made for her. She had herself a tea before coming to tend to me. She felt a little weird as far as I was concerned, but it turns out I had completely healed up all on my own without being tended. And then Marjot had herself a beer, chilled out before doing a bunch of cleaning, so everything was such a bloody mess. I got back to cooking, and then a solar flare happened, so I couldn't do that. We had traps to build, dead aliens to haul, blocks to bring in. Marjot chilled out and had a beer, while I got to work on those traps. And then Marjot went to bed early that night. She was feeling a little buzzy from the beer, and had just had enough for the day. I hit the hay shortly after, not having anything to complain about really. While we slept, the solar flare ended. We knew because the light came back on. We decided we were going to need a ton of advanced components as well if we were going to build a ship. We were still unsure where we were going to get all the plasteel she said we'd need. But we had enough work here to keep us busy for a while regardless. So I cleaned and cooked, got things set up in the kitchen. Marjot hauled. And eventually I got around to helping out with that. We had tons of supplies in the form of blocks, which was fortunate. We decided we were going to double up our walls, see if we could avoid getting killed. Marjot hit the hay early once again, and I continued hauling stuff. When I got back in, I decided to sit down and have some chocolate. Had a few pieces, because why not? And then I decided maybe I'd get to the business of mining. We were going to need a ton of steel yet. We were sick of running out. So I mined for a bit, but it was late. I decided I'd better hit the hay. Marjot got up about the time I laid down. I thought perhaps she was crabby with me, but she said she wasn't. She was just eager to get some work done. And she had a meal and was back to bed about 5. So then I got up as soon as she came to bed. And I was going to focus on mining for a while. If we had a few thousand steel stacked up, I wouldn't feel so worried, and there was plenty of it laying around here. Just had to be mined out and put away. Marjot continued to haul stuff while I mined, and we were both pretty busy with that. Eventually I got sick of mining, came on in and had some chocolate, and then it was time to get back to work. If I get lazy for too long, we might not make it. I mined all day, and then hauled in what I could, sat down inside and had myself a meal, and then I was off to bed once again. Marjot decided to join me. Another fine night. Not a lot to complain about right now. It had been a few chaotic days. How Marjot died, but all was well at the minute. Hauling, mining and hauling, those were going to be our next few tasks. After that, where the heck are we going to get the plasteel we need? For the moment, we weren't thinking about that though.